one of the unique practices I was hoping you'd talk to in this creation stage or generation stage practice in Kalachakra is the dark retreat. So given you've explained, what we're trying to do, what is the role of dark retreat in Kalachakra at this point of the practice?
Yeah, it's very important for the sadhana practice. If you want to create to be so skilled that you can basically visualize the entire mandala with all the details, with colors in the right place, in the right corner of a mandala, and so on. Because the role of dark retreat is not to have other imprints that come to your perception during daytime, interfere with this. So if you are in a complete dark, then when you create this mental image, you can easily maintain it without interference of imprint. Oh, I just saw a piece of bread, or I just saw some car passing by through my window, or a bird flying. So there are no interferences. It has to, for that, this is primary reason. But then, of course, sometimes, dark retreat in Kalachakra is done in a certain yogic practices as well. But when it comes to the stage of completion.
Can you tell us of the time where you went to Tibet and you went to that monastery where they were actually practicing this practice, and you were asking very practical questions? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. This was 20. I asked Alan today how many years that was, ago, and he said 28 years ago. It was in the region of Naba or Rabba. In those days, this was closed region to foreigners, and we already traveled for altogether 3 weeks, just two of us. Around Tibet, and wherever we went, we saw everything was being kind of in a phase of reconstructing, so lots of noise almost in every monastery, children, dogs, lay people painting, singing, and we came there where most monasteries were reconstructed, and at the end of kind of town, at that time, 28 years ago, I'm sure it was very different than it is now. Right? There were no hotels or nothing. It was very small. There were these two monasteries on the edge of this road, dusty road. And one was the Kirti monastery. That time we were told had 3,000 monks, and across the road was a Jinampa monastery, which at that time had 500 monks. And noticed right away when we came to the end of that road with these two monasteries, how quiet it was. Suddenly you couldn't see living soul, only those noisy horsefly here and there, nothing. Couldn't see anybody, hear anybody. We were wondering what is happening. So we walked into this Janampa monastery, and the only person who wasn't in retreat was an old Lama and his like 13 or 12-year-old attendant, who with a fingers called us to his room and told us that everybody is there doing this dark sadhana retreat. And he pointed like with a hand where it is, and it looked like one large structure, like a temple. So I assumed, all right, they're doing in a temple, so they're all in the same room. And Alan was translating, and my first question was, how do they go to the bathroom? I assumed they weren't doing it in front of each other, even it's so dark. And he said, oh, they put sex, like a sex for flour and those brown sex. In old days, they carried potatoes, They put them overhead when they go to bathroom. So they have to maintain, because if they just walk out and start looking around, and then they go back, that would be, again, interfering. But those images that I just saw would be a little bit obstacles to go back to wherever they stopped with that visualization to continue.
Wow. And they're also doing it together, because often you might imagine that they're in a room by themselves, but they're in like a hall together, all dark, and
yeah, that's how it was there at that time. Maybe they did, maybe because, I don't know if their cells had windows, that's why they didn't, but it was one big temple, and maybe now they do it differently, but this is how it was done. And I remember it was kind of, I thought that was interesting, that it's like a collective retreat. Nobody was there. I don't know who was cooking or preparing meals for all of them. We didn't see anybody, and we were allowed to stay for the day, and we had to leave because it was not, we had policemen who was a Tibetan, very kind, apologizing all the time, said, please leave, I'll be in trouble, please leave. So we left and couldn't explore the whole monastery and find out more. But because also this old Lama, he wanted to give us immediately teachings and tell us difference between Shentong and Rantong, you know.